You might even be intelligent, but is your mouth sabotaging you? Yes, that's exactly what you heard. Because it's not just what we think, but what we say, that reveals our true level of wisdom. And if you have the habit of saying things like, "I know everything, that's impossible," or "I don't need help," maybe you're further from true intelligence than you think. Does that sound controversial? It is. The ancient Stoics, masters of mental clarity and emotional strength, already warned us, true intelligence doesn't shout, it observes. It doesn't impose itself, it learns. And in this video, we'll expose 13 phrases that truly intelligent people never say. Not because they're forbidden, but because they're limiting, toxic, and loaded with self-deception. And no, this content isn't just for philosophy fans. It's for anyone who wants to truly grow, emotionally, intellectually, and in practical life as well. So if you're ready to see your own blocks with brutal honesty and ancient wisdom, stick around until the end, because the last phrase might be the very one that's been holding you back without you even noticing. Oh, and if you want to continue on this journey with us, subscribe to the channel now and hit the bell, because real wisdom isn't learned in a pill, but in constant practice. 1. I know everything. There are people who love to play the know-it-all, right? But those who are truly intelligent understand that saying, "I know everything," is practically a certificate of ignorance. Saying that is like slamming the door in the face of knowledge. You shut yourself off from the new, the different, from what could transform your worldview. The Stoics knew this well. Epicteto said it's impossible to learn anything if you think you already know. And look, this phrase isn't just nice for Instagram quotes, it's a true philosophy of life. When someone says they know everything, they're really admitting they stopped evolving. Have you noticed that the wisest people are the ones who ask the most questions? They're not afraid to admit they don't have all the answers, and that's where the magic happens. A new book, an unusual conversation, even a silly mistake in daily life. All of it becomes a lesson for those willing to learn. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look beneath the surface, because there's always more to see than meets the eye." Now, think with me. How many opportunities have you missed because you thought you already knew? Maybe that simple advice you ignored because it seemed basic, or that chance to listen to someone younger, thinking they had nothing to teach you. True intelligence isn't about having all the answers, but about never stopping asking the right questions. And that's where things start to get even more interesting. 2. That's impossible. You know that phrase that kills any idea before it's even born? "That's impossible" is exactly that kind of sentence. It seems harmless, but it's a true anchor in the middle of the creative storm. When someone says this, they're actually revealing a lot more about their own mental limits than about reality. Because, let's face it, today's impossible was yesterday's crazy dream. Would anyone back in 1800 believe we'd have the internet in our pockets? The Stoics, those wise old souls, had a sharp view on this. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." In other words, if something seems impossible, maybe the problem is the way you're looking at the situation. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded and then saying it can't be solved. Truly intelligent people, instead of declaring defeat, ask, "How can I make this work?" Want an example? Think of the guy who invented the airplane. Everyone around him must have laughed out loud. Flying? Impossible. Today, we complain about ticket prices and tight seats, and we're not even impressed anymore by the fact that we're literally floating in the sky. That's why people with vision don't accept "it can't be done" as a final answer. They question, adapt, test. The impossible exists only until someone bold enough proves otherwise. And that's when revolutions happen. 3. I don't need help. There are people who still confuse independence with isolation, right? I don't need help even sounds brave, but in reality, it's a big sign of insecurity disguised as pride. The Stoics knew that no one grows alone. Seneca himself said that it's in difficulties that we realize the value of help. When everything is fine, it may seem like we can handle it all. But it's in tough times that true colors show, and humility becomes power. An intelligent person doesn't measure strength to prove they can do it alone. They measure wisdom to understand that asking for help is strategic. It's an honest acknowledgement that you don't know everything, you can't do everything, and most importantly, you can do more when you're together. Look at Marcus Aurelius again. Even as an emperor, he had mentors and advisors at his side. Because true leadership isn't built by shouting, but by dialogue. Want a real example? Successful companies aren't made by lone geniuses, but by teams that complement each other. Apple had Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. Google was born from a partnership. Life works like that too. Stopping saying, I don't need help, and starting to ask, who can I count on, might be the first step to turning the tables. And this mindset will open doors that pride could never unlock alone. 4. I don't care. This phrase seems harmless, almost indifferent, but it hides one of the greatest poisons to personal growth: apathy. I don't care is the modern version of throwing in the towel before the fight even starts. And for those seeking emotional intelligence and growth, this attitude is shooting yourself in the foot. Marcus Aurelius already said that each decision shapes who we are. And if you keep saying you don't care about anything, you're basically giving up the power to build your own story. Intelligent people understand that caring is an act of courage. It requires energy, yes. It also demands vulnerability. But it's exactly that connection with what matters that fuels the desire to improve, solve, move forward. I don't care might protect you from others' judgment, but it also protects you from growth, overcoming, and transformation. And let's be honest, what's the point of living a life where nothing truly moves you? Have you noticed how the most inspiring people are those with a cause, a passion, a purpose? It doesn't have to be anything grand. It can be taking care of family, writing a book, planting a garden. The point is, they care. They choose to care. Because they know that indifference might avoid frustration, but also avoids achievements. And if there's one thing an intelligent mind understands, it's that living with intensity and purpose is worth every effort. 5. That's not my job. Few phrases reveal such a limited vision as this. That's not my job is the silent cry of someone who decided to settle for the minimum. It's an invisible barrier that separates the mediocre from the exceptional. Seneca already said that it's not because something is hard that we don't try. It's because we don't try that everything seems hard. Intelligent people know that growth requires going beyond what's in the contract. They don't run from responsibility, they hunt for opportunity. In a world where everyone wants to get ahead, those who step up to solve what isn't their job stand out. You know that employee who solves a problem without being asked? That friend who anticipates? That person who steps up? That's what differentiates the operator from the leader. Intelligent people don't see an isolated task, they see the impact. And those who see the big picture lead, grow, and transform. Want a practical example? Great leaders started as do-it-alls. People who learned what no one wanted to teach, who got involved in areas no one wanted to touch. That's not my job is comfortable, but it's never been the path for those who shine. If you want to stand out, you have to show you're willing to do what others avoid. Because in the end, it's not about doing more, it's about making a difference. 6. I'll do it later. Procrastination is that trap that seems harmless but slowly drains our dreams in silent mode. I'll do it later even sounds logical, but it's the most dangerous excuse ever invented. Marcus Aurelius gave it to us straight centuries ago. Stop debating what it means to be good, just be good. Simple as that. Intelligent people know the ideal moment rarely comes, and waiting too long is an elegant way of self-sabotage. Leaving things for later is like letting a leaky faucet drip. It seems small, but eventually it floods everything. An unsent email, a postponed conversation, a goal pushed off. All of this piles up and becomes invisible chaos. And the mind, which could be light and creative, becomes a warehouse of undone tasks. Seneca warned that life isn't short, we just waste a lot of time. And intelligent people don't wait for perfect inspiration. They act even without motivation. Want a practical way out? Create rituals. Simple things like, every morning, I handle the most annoying tasks first, or I write down 3 priorities a day and only rest when I finish them. Procrastination disappears when discipline takes over. Intelligence here isn't about genius, it's about taking control of your own time. Because in the end, later never comes. And those who don't act today, watch the days go by without moving. 7. That's not fair. Few phrases taste so much like frustration as, that's not fair. And honestly, it's understandable. Life really doesn't come with an equality manual. But the problem is when that phrase becomes a refuge. Because complaining about unfairness without acting is like shouting at a mirror. Nothing changes. Epictetus already warned, it's not what happens to you that matters, but how you react to what happens. That difference in attitude separates those who move forward from those who sink into their own complaints. Intelligent people don't deny injustices, they just don't let themselves be paralyzed by them. They know that brooding over what's fair or not consumes energy that could be used to build solutions. You know that feeling that the game is rigged? Then play better. Change your strategy. Rewrite the rules. Marcus Aurelius put it simply, you have control over your mind, not over the external world, so start using it in your favor. Practical example. How many people have faced absurd hardships and still built something great? People who grew up with no access, no support, with everything against them. But instead of shouting, it's not fair, they whispered, now what do I do with this? That's emotional intelligence at the highest level. While some complain, others react. And it's those who leave their mark on the world. Because intelligence is also knowing where it's worth putting your energy. 8. I can't. The infamous, I can't. Seems like a simple phrase, right? But it carries huge destructive power. It's like a wall we build in our minds before even trying to climb anything. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. And that's exactly what intelligent people do. They don't deny difficulties, but they also don't surrender to them. When someone says, I can't, often it's not lack of ability, it's fear in disguise. Fear of failing, of looking silly, of not being good enough. But smart people look fear in the eyes and answer, I can't yet. That changes everything. Instead of closing the matter, it opens space to learn, try, improve. They swap, I can't, for, how can I? And then the brain starts to work for you, not against you. Want a real example? How many times have you seen someone say they couldn't speak in public, play an instrument, learn English, and later, with practice and dedication, became an expert. The secret isn't in having talent, it's in being willing. And that, my friend, is training. Intelligence isn't about not feeling fear. It's about acting even with fear. Because while some get stuck on, I can't, others turn it into the first step towards, I did it. 9. That's just how it is. This phrase should come with a warning: extreme risk of stagnation. Because when someone says, that's just how it is, what they're really saying is, I gave up trying to change. It's as if they accepted reality without even questioning if it could be better. Marcus Aurelius, back in the 2nd century, put it plainly: if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. So, just because something has always been a certain way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. Intelligent people don't accept things as they are just because it's always been that way. They poke the system, challenge the automatic, put their finger on the wound, and ask, why? Or even better, what if it were different? This goes for work, relationships, personal life. The comfort zone may seem cozy, but it's a disguised pitfall. Intelligent people don't settle, they reinvent themselves. Want to see this in practice? Think of all the progress we've had in society: civil rights, scientific discoveries, technological innovations. None of that happened because someone said, that's just how it is. On the contrary, it was people who dared to question, propose the new, challenge the old. And that's what sets the passive apart from the protagonist. The first one watches, the second one transforms. So next time you hear or think, that's just how it is, do yourself a favor and answer, but does it have to stay that way? 10. I'm too old/young for this. Few phrases are as sneaky as this one. I'm too old for this, or I'm too young for this, are polite ways of saying, I'm afraid to try. But the Stoics, always ready to shake up the soul, didn't accept that excuse. Seneca himself said, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. In other words, age doesn't limit anything, your mind does. Intelligent people know that time is an ally, not an obstacle. Young people have boldness, energy, and freshness. Older people have wisdom, experience, and vision. Now, imagine combining both. That's when the game changes. Those who think the time has passed, or it's not the right moment yet, are just dragging life along. The right time doesn't exist. What exists is the willingness to do what needs to be done now. Want proof? Morgan Freeman only became a movie star at 50. Vera Wang started designing dresses after 40. Malala was 17 and already a Nobel Peace Prize winner. So let's agree, if they didn't use age as an excuse, why should you? Intelligence is understanding that each stage of life brings something valuable, and the right time is whenever you choose to start. 11. I don't have time. Ah, the classic, I don't have time. If it were a character, it'd be the masked villain of productivity. This phrase seems innocent, but it's one of the biggest self-deceptions there is. Epicteto said wealth isn't having many possessions, but having few desires, and here comes the turning point. Time isn't lacking, what's lacking is clarity of priorities. Intelligent people know that, I don't have time, almost always means, this isn't a priority for me. Intelligent people make time work for them. It's not that they have 48 hours in a day, but they make conscious choices about where to put their energy. They eliminate noise, cut what doesn't add value, and focus on what really matters. The secret isn't running faster, it's running in the right direction. Because wasted time is lost time, and that's something you can't get back. Want to apply this? X-ray your routine. How much time is lost on social media, series, automatic tasks? Now compare that with the time dedicated to real goals, personal projects, health, learning. The contrast is shocking. Intelligent people are intentional. They don't wait to have time, they make time. Because in the end, saying, "I don't have time," is saying, "I'm not willing." So, isn't it time to rethink your choices? 12. It's too late. Few phrases smell so much like regret as this one. "It's too late" is the whisper of giving up disguised as reason. But look, Marcus Aurelius already had a sharp answer. When you arise in the morning, remember what a privilege it is to be alive. In other words, if you're still breathing, it's not too late. Intelligent people know time isn't the enemy, it's raw material. Every new day is a chance to do things differently, start over, grow. Some people let the fear of "what if" be bigger than the desire for "why not?" But what many forget is that most successful people started late. Samuel L. Jackson had his first big role at almost 50. Author Laura Ingalls only published her first book at 65. These people proved there's no right time. There's attitude. And intelligent people don't ask time's permission. So next time you feel like the train has already left, think this way. What if there's another one coming, but you just need to get up and walk to the station? Too late only exists for those who've stopped trying. Smart people know the only wasted time is the one you let slip away by inertia. And sometimes, your big moment starts exactly when you decide it's still possible. 13. People like me don't do that. This phrase is a disguised sentence. People like me don't do that is the kind of belief that traps you in an invisible cage. It's like saying, "That's not for me," before even trying. Epictetus already saw this coming. No great thing is created suddenly. And he was right. Intelligent people understand that identity isn't a fixed label. It's a work in progress. You are not what you were. You are what you're choosing to be now. This "I'm not that kind of person" mindset blocks everything. New habits, opportunities, changes in direction. It's as if you put on an invisible uniform with the phrases, "This isn't for me," "I wasn't born for this," or "People from my background don't get there." But who said that? Who wrote that script? Intelligent people question those mental shackles. They swap "people like me don't do that" for "maybe I'll be the first one to do it." Think of pioneers. People who came from unlikely backgrounds and changed everything. Scientists without degrees, artists no one took seriously, entrepreneurs who. So tell me, how many of these phrases have you said without even realizing the impact they have on your life? The truth is, changing the way we communicate, even with ourselves, can be the most powerful step toward real intelligence. Not that exam intelligence or a diploma or inflated ego, but practical, emotional intelligence, the kind that transforms your days, your results, and even your relationships. So, which of these phrases will you drop today? Will you keep saying, "I don't have time," "That's not fair," "I can't"? Or will you start building a new narrative, more in line with who you want to become? Tell me in the comments which of these phrases hit you the hardest, or which one you'll make a point never to say again. And if this video opened your eyes, then subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and come grow with us. Because here, we don't stop at shallow content. Here, we dive deep into what truly transforms.